Hello, Self Cosmos. Oh, Hana, Soul Dr. Nick here. This is Magic Mirror Work. It is Wednesday, November 19th, 2025, around 7:20 a.m. Still seeing the beautiful colors of sunrise here. Some yellow, some pinks. Got the fireplace going on, really misty. It is not raining, thankfully. Clear-ish skies. We're going to go see a lovely functional dentist today and then gather and have some conversations. I'm going to head down to the office soon and actually do a little bit of work. I'm quite behind in a way in work. I've got a little bit of pressure, a little bit of we've got 6 days until we're off to Hawaii, chase some of the sunshine, be with some of the warmth. Haven't packed yet, haven't cleaned yet, haven't really gotten things prepared for the next layer yet. And just feeling the ugh of it all, the of it all, and the stories of it all. We're at a price on Bitcoin, which is around 125,000 Canadian, I believe, which is much lower than I would have imagined, and remind myself what a gift it is and that I don't have the right answers. Anything under 150,000 Canadian, I think right now is a discount, bargain, steal, whatever you want to say. Having just watched Wicked, the one special night kind of thing where they sang songs live and played and danced, and just being reminded of having fun, of magic, of production. And then just reminding myself, man, it may seem like such a dream to be them, to be this beloved, to have this recognition. And I can only imagine what kind of a nightmare scenario that would be as well, for the uninitiated to have that level of fame, popularity, that loss of anonymity, that needing to perform all the time, that expectation, and how many people are so starved for fantasy that they need to create someone else's reality in their fantasy, and what if it doesn't match? Um, that it's a way of life and living, and not to say right or wrong, just rather what depth, what play, what imagination do we each have? How do we enable, how do we support that? And that's part of my work. And then listening to Terence McKenna this morning talking about the mushrooms and the visions and the hallucinations, and just recognizing that that's another layer of story, and not being able to reach those same states with any practices, with any gurus, with any religion, and being reminded of that too. You know, the fallacy of human beings, his analogy, it's like two grains of sand going, I can teach one grain, going the other, I can teach you about God, and how funny that sounds. And there is also, I imagine, some truth to that. Like, as much as we're in our own reality bubbles, how do we actually connect, communicate, support, love? And it depends on the person. Some people, like he's already admitted, I'm a very paranoid person. For him, it wouldn't make sense to have someone else there holding the space, being there. For me, it's so nice to be held and to hold. And looking at the different layers of wisdom that are possible there, the different ways of being able to play, that there isn't a one right answer, but rather what are the pathways, what are the doorways? And he's like, yeah, like this is my doorway. Why would I try to seek another doorway when I found one that works for me? And how do I become the preacher in a way for that doorway? And for myself, having been through so many different doorways, just noticing what doorway works for me right now, right? I got to grow up with the Catholic religion. I got to grow up in different ways. And I loved the last thing he said, like, human language is like a very primitive form of telepathy. Like, we had to learn how to make these sounds that come out of my mouth that go into your ears. And I have to look at a dictionary and make my own version of the dictionary. And you have to make your own version of the dictionary. And sometimes our dictionaries align in some ways and sometimes they don't. And then one of the most challenging questions is, what did you hear? Or what did you learn from what I said? Or what did you understand? Or can you explain what I just said? Can you explain what you just said? And part of it is trying to explain it again even more. And how do we get to the point of just seeing, understanding, being? And part of it is that's my work, I realize, constantly, over and over, coming back to my beingness, and then being able to practice it in a contained container for people to open up to their own beingness. And then noticing how many structures have been created in this world just for the accounting, for the trying to make the 3D reality sync up. And I love this. I'm stepping into the next breath, which is freedom. How do we come to this permission-based society? Do you have a permit for that? Do you have a permission for that? Have you followed the rules and the regulations? And even the rules and the regulations have to bend over backwards to try to get clear. And even when they're supposed to be clear, how many people do we need as lawyers, as judges, and all these things? And how do we even realize that there's so many lawyers and judges using AI because it's hard to keep up with the mountain of quote unquote rules, and everyone gets to interpret the rules differently, and in the interpretation it makes it even more complex. And how are we falling over our complexity right now? And how do we actually practice cleaning house every now and then? How do we do it in a way that actually serves? How do we notice that we've gone from a place where, and I was listening to Jack Mahler and Jack Dorsey, another Jack, eh? Jack Dorsey, and taking a listen to that and go from, how do we go to that world where we'd have to raise money from the people to believe in the wars that we're going to choose to fight? Because otherwise, why would we spend so much money on this giant endeavor, on this giant infrastructure project, so to speak, instead of just trying to maintain? And in so doing, the government, the entities, the special interests get to make these decisions, even if we can't explain it well enough, even if we can't get the consensus, even if we can't get the rationale behind things. And that's what happened with World War One, then World War Two, then the Vietnam War, then the COVID war, and there's so many, and then the financial wars. And then how many financial instruments are there? We talk about, Bitcoin is one way to transmute energy into a store of value. And how much are we currently spending in energy, resources, time, people to maintain the current system, financial systems, financial instruments, financial technology, of fintech, of all these things. And it's interesting, and how many ledgers, and how many different ledgers, and how many intercommunicating ledgers need there be? And then how many backdoors needs there be? And there are backdoors. There's a guaranteed backdoors. That's part of the built-in system. And then noticing who's funding who, what's funding what. And then what countries are there where there literally isn't the safety and security of the secondary layers that we've created for ourselves, and then trying to restrict them from being able to do that as well. And then how do we get to a place where we have a hybrid of things, where we have a hybrid of cash, of precious metals, of digital currency, of all these different layers working together? How do we have trackless ways of purchasing as well? All these contemplations. And then how do we just live? How do we remember to live and have fun? How do we remember to have fun? And that's part of it as well amongst all of this, is how do we just have some fun? How do we notice? How do I notice? How do I notice I'm having fun, I'm not having fun? I'm having fun, I'm not having fun. And how do I notice that it's okay that I have my own set of rules, desires, goals? How do I notice how I let people down? I'm late. I'm not holding accountable. I'm not holding a structure. I'm not holding container. And how do I notice my own shame, blame, guilt? How do I let that go? Just being with the mists of Moria right now. And it's funny, all the words that are so similar, the mists of Moria, and how they're, every time I listen to a podcast, I'm like noticing little clues that I've either dropped for myself. When's the last time you cried from someone? Charles Duhigg, Super Communicators, and I listened to that. I'm listening to Jack Reacher, the latest book, No, or Exit Strategy, or Clean Exit, or something like that. And just being with it, being with the anticipation of it all, being with the stories, and then being with the ridiculousness of all these thriller stories too. All right, now how do we step into fantasy? How do we step into fantasy? Stepping into Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone again, listening to that again for the first time, reading that for the first time coming up soon. Looking forward to that. Reading and listening to and learning about the never-ending story again. Oh. And again, allowing myself to read, not to wait on things either. Playing. Just rediscover the movie The Prestige, and just the magicians one-upping each other, or noticing the different aspects of a magic trick. Noticing the spirituality of everything. Noticing the sensuality of everything. Health, wealth, family, freedom, flow, receiving. And then today there's the 7-figure ancestral wealth kind of video and recording and live and letting myself go, letting it go, letting go of needing to be a part of it. Writing back to my dear friend Bob, not trying to, and noticing myself. I want to write to Simone and them to show off who I am, to plant the seed. And then how do I just let that go? How do I just let that go and let it flow? Let it go and let it flow. Let it go and let it flow. Let it go and let it flow. And notice all the different pullings, all the different commitments, all the different educations. And everything is, in the old mind, at least in the mind, a trade-off. I can't do everything all at once. Everything everywhere all at once. And even just want to watch that movie again, too. So many things that want to be experienced and re-experienced and reimagined and imagined. And then noticing the intricacies of wanting to watch these things, the intricacies of wanting to use the TV, use the technology. Everything, everywhere, all at once. And there's a part of that, the other dimensions, the other parallel realities, the other universes, the other octaves, the other foldings of space and time, right? What is this illusion? What is this Truman Show? And in a way, I'm creating my own Truman Show right now, recording these things, putting them out there, putting myself out there, knowing that over and over I'm going to be creating my own AI eventually, but not trying to. And then I realized there's different parts. How do we pattern? How do we partner people with each other? How do we partner strong masculines, strong feminines together that are ready? How do we partner people who are really good at saving money, with spending money, with visionaries and everything else in between? And breathing it in and letting it go. Breathing it in, letting go. And then over and over again, noticing the stories that want to come up. Over and over again, doing the learningness of life right now. The learningness of life. And what is the revenue that I can see myself, ourselves, creating? What are the projects? What are the programs? How do I make this more accessible? I remember the sleep program that I got. What is it called again? I can't remember, where it just brings together different components in a random way to create new things. And then it can say it has an unlimited number of programs, because in a way it does. In a way it does. It talks to you differently. It's a different kind of meditation each time. I imagine there were 1-minute blocks that were being put together in a random algorithmic order. And how brilliant that is. It allows there to be familiarity and allows there to be novelness. And how we've forgotten that little piece of novelness along with the familiarity, along with the building blocks that are there. And that's even in my breath sessions, that's even in the remixing of things for people. And that's probably something we will get to eventually. How do we have a program that continuously remixes in a way that really serves? And then remixes the words, the voice, the vocabulary. That's essentially some of what AI is doing. And we're creating this tool which can talk to us, which is talking through language in a way that becomes faster and faster and faster, that takes the linearity out of the thinking. And playing with science fiction and fantasy again more and more and more. And how are these worlds created? How are they channeled? What if actors aren't putting on masks when they're really there? How are they channeling? Channeling in their being, channeling in their energy, being able to create life, right? Giving birth to a life, in a way. Many lives, many parts. How all these different ways of trying to understand all these different psychological frameworks may actually be other little prisons and patterns. And I have spoken of this before, I've thought of this before, all the little different prisons I put myself in. and all the metaphors of prison as well, all the actual literal prisons that we have, all the minimum security prisons that we create for ourselves, whether it's inside of a city, a town, a community, a strata, an organization, a business, even structures that are supposed to be playful, like sports team structures and all that stuff. We're creating our own little prisons, of rules that we keep reinforcing even when it doesn't feel right, doesn't make sense, when someone gets hurt. How do we play outside of that sometimes? How do we have things that make sense? How do we have it so that when someone actively tries to figure out how to cheat the system, A, we could punish them right away, B, we could celebrate them, or C, we could just play with both of those things. Hey, we're going to punish and celebrate you. Wow, look at that. You managed how to play with the rules, and why wouldn't you? We've been reinforcing that, and now we're going to laugh a little bit together. How do we not just shame and blame and say, oh my God, I can't believe you did that? We all reinforced it. You go from a hero, an underdog, into a villain because suddenly you become the one that's on top, the one that is favored. And how are we trying to deny that favoritism exists all the time? And how do we start favoriting ourselves in a way that's actually healthy? How do I favorite myself in a way that's healthy sometimes? How do I notice, oh wow, there's so much fog and haze. I can't even see the sunrise, which is faded now. There's more brightness, but there isn't that kind of light. And thank you for all the hormones, everything else that gets created in this morning sunlight. I've forgotten that, and I've lost sight of that a little bit. And I look forward to getting more sunshine and sunlight on my body, especially when I'm over there in Hawaii. Over and over again. Over and over again. Taking care of this home. Letting go of this home. Taking care of this home. Letting go of this home. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Getting driven to the airport. Driving to the airport. Breathing it in, letting go. Breathing it in, letting it go. Trusting, 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 trusting. So much trusting. All right, let's be with the trust. Let's be with the love. Let's be with the excitement. Let's be with the contrast. Let's be with the everything of it all. Ciao for now.